FM.
So, thank you very much for coming, Kelly.
You're welcome, Pete. It's been a long time coming. I know I promised you a podcast, so here we are.
There we are, yes. So, let's introduce you very briefly. So, you're the athlete support officer and task lead. Only got a couple more days left now.
Yep, 3 more days, today, tomorrow, and then Friday.
Yeah. So we should just say this will come out in July. So today is Wednesday, the 23rd, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's just record it way back. So and you might have heard the name Kelly before on the podcast. Many HPA athletes come and gone. I've always mentioned your name and Vicious name and everyone else's. So here's the famous Kelly. So let's get started. So growing up, let's just go way back into your youth. What was your sporting career in your early days?
Okay, so I definitely wouldn't say I was an athlete, but I used to play a lot of netball. Netball was my sport, so I played it to fairly good standards, sort of locally, sort of had county trials, but yeah, I didn't go too much further than that. But yeah, played a lot of netball all through school. And then secondary school, sixth form, we had a really great team. I also did a lot of swimming as well, but I had to sort of prioritise one or the other because there were lots of early mornings with swimming, and it relied a lot on my parents to take me to the swimming pool pretty early in the mornings. But yeah, I just played a lot of netball and just enjoyed sort of keeping fit. I was always open to trying lots of different sports and stuff, but netball was probably the one that I took most seriously.
And why didn't you carry it on after?
Good question. I did sort of start playing at I came to university and did the netball trials, but I just realised I didn't really want to commit to something too much, but I did try something new. So I tried rowing, did a little bit of rowing, which was cool. I did that in my first year, and then with the course that I was doing, I really just loved sort of keeping fit and getting in the gym. So enjoyed more sort of spectating and watching sport rather than playing, but keeping fit and fitness classes sort of became my new sort of passion.
It certainly did. And then we go on to Solent. You came here as a student about 20 years ago. Trying not to make you feel old here, Ken.
You've made me feel very old. You've made me feel very old in one sentence. Yeah, 20 years ago in September, I moved from Devon to Southampton and I never went home.
So, how was it going from your hometown to a city like Southampton?
It was amazing. It was the best thing for me at the time. Obviously, I love, as I've got older, I've, really love going back to Devon. So, my parent, I grew up in a very small town on the edge of Dartmoor. So, when you're really young, it's great. It's amazing. We had a field at the bottom of the road that I just spend summer holidays playing in with friends. And then as you sort of get a bit older and you want to see a bit more, go to some cities, start maybe going out, it just became a little bit harder because we lived so far away from nightlife and things like that. Yeah. So I did take a year out. Between finishing my A-levels, I worked at a local holiday park. It was a gym and health centre and a holiday park, which I absolutely loved. And I nearly didn't come to uni, but I'm really glad I did. I sort of was enjoying, the friends that I had, and some of them are still like my closest friends now. We had an amazing time. I was working as a lifeguard, working in the gym. But I realised, it would be good for me to move away. So here I came.
Yeah, and then obviously sport was in you from a young age. There was no other option but sport for you.
I didn't consider anything other than sport. It was always going to be something to do with sport and health and fitness. The first sort of course that I looked at was more of a sports therapy based course, but I didn't get good enough grades. So, excuse me, my A-levels unfortunately weren't great. So that sort of ruled that out for me. So I looked at a more health and fitness course, and Solent seemed a really great fit. It was a really great place. So much so I still, Southampton is my home now, so I really do love it. But it was a great university. It was the right size university for me. Moving from somewhere quite rural, it was a nice sort of step up. It wasn't too far away from home, so a couple of hours drive. And they did health and fitness management, which is the degree that I did, and signed up.
Yeah. So you spent 3 years doing your BA in health and fitness.
Yeah.
For 3 years, and then you didn't pursue a master's until later on, which we'll talk to later on. But after the degree, you then stayed here. So what's the initial plan? Just the 3 years and then move on. What was the idea back then?
I think very quickly I realised that I probably wasn't going to go back home. I think my second year I didn't even go home for the summer. I stayed and I got a summer job working at the sports complex, or the old sports centre. We used to do summer schools where the language schools would come over from Europe and they would have English lessons, and the university would put them up in the halls of residence over summer. They'd come to the university canteen for their food, and then we would put on activities in the morning and afternoon, different sports activities. So I did that. And then after that, I sort of realised that I'd like to stay in Southampton. And I was really lucky that when I started my second year, one of my teachers for my gym instructor courses was Bex Bishop. So Mrs. Bish's wife, and she introduced me to Bish. And in the February of my second year, I started working as a gym instructor. So I was in my second year, and there was a couple of my sort of classmates that started at the same time, and there was some current sort of third years working as well, who sort of mentored us. So, and that was it really. I was working lots of hours. It was really flexible. There was lots of cover shifts, covering people's lunch breaks and all sorts. And I was just, it was a great environment to be in. Absolutely loved it. And then, I was in the right place at the right time. And when I finished university in the May, stayed again, gym instructor. I started teaching some fitness classes, which is another passion of mine. I absolutely love that. I haven't done it since COVID, unfortunately. But yeah, teaching lots of fitness classes. And then a full-time job came up in the sports centre that was down at the Warsash campus. So I started there in October 2018. So it was actually 2006, the October 2006, that I started down at Warsash. But probably not got the dates quite right. But so the October that I finished university, I started as a full-time member of university staff. I was no longer a student down at I was sort of the sports centre supervisor or gym supervisor down at the Warsash campus. And I stayed there for a number of years, which was a great place for me to start. Really different environment being down there with all the cadets, and sort of ran very differently to my sort of student life. But it was great, really, really great. There are a couple of other gym instructors that worked there as well, but I was sort of based there most of the, Monday to Friday, which was great. It was like a perfect place to start and use everything that I learned in my degree. I could sort of apply to my day-to-day job.
Yeah, so you stayed at Solent after your degree. 2004, you mentioned you were fitness instructor up until, and then you were health promotion officer and athlete mentor.
Yeah.
From 2008 or 2006 or whatever. The link to the accounts, I read the one thing then.
It was a bit tricky to put in all the different dates, to be honest with you. But so I spent a number of years down at Warsash, and then I moved up to East Park Terrace as sports centre supervisor in the sort of the sports hall is still there, sort of various activities. So I sort of ran that sports centre for a number of years, which was great, and then had the opportunity to sort of move into a newly formed health promotion team. So that was formed by Chris Dunn, who I replaced down at Warsash. So Chris was down at Warsash, then I moved into his role. He moved up to the main campus and sort of set up this health promotion and behaviour change department, which is all about sort of creating a healthy campus and getting staff and students more active around the workplace. And he needed some support, and a role came up, so I sort of took a bit of a sideways move into the health promotion team, and that was fantastic. It was great. I, really got to know lots and lots of members of staff, lots of different campaigns and initiatives, and sort of fun sort of fitness competitions to keep people active. And that's where I started to look into sort of mentoring, and that very much like being that sort of termed like sort of a skilled helper. So I'm not a trained counsellor, but you have those skills to help people. It was a lot of conversation around behaviour change and trying to help people make healthy habits and what barriers they may have. So that's what really got me into that kind of mentoring role, which I really, really enjoyed. And then alongside that, in Solent Sport, James Grant, who was first started as a fitness instructor, he set up what is now HPA program. It was very small, very much in his infancy, but he really bought into athlete mentoring and athlete support. And he sort of showed me this role that sort of performance lifestyle advisors, which all the Olympic and Paralympic sports have through the EIS, which is now the UK Institute of Sport. And I read about the role, and I just was like, this is the role I want to do. This is, I love helping people. I've always been passionate about sport, and he very kindly funded me to do a course back in, I think I did my talented athlete lifestyle support course in 2013, I think.
Yeah.
I did, yeah, got the dates right. So I did that in 2013, and then alongside that, I just volunteered as a mentor. So I had 3 athletes at the time. I mentored a male footballer who was he played in the deaf football team. I had a figure skater, and I can't remember the third. It was long ago, but so I sort of volunteered my time to mentor them through their university, which I absolutely loved. And then, James just really kept fighting for a role, and he got a full-time role through. And then I sort of transitioned from the health promotion team into my athlete support role, and that was 9 years ago.
It was 9 years ago. You're absolutely right there. And so you had a health promotion officer role, and then you're an athlete mentor, you mentioned, and then you moved away from the health promotion officer into an athlete support officer.
Yeah.
Which is your role from 2014 to now.
Correct.
So, and then we'll go on to your US role in a minute. So, athlete support officer. So, obviously, that was a bigger role than athlete mentor. That was under Solent Sport. And so, how did you get into that role then? How was that?
So yeah, it was very much because of James Granty. Again, yeah. So he really pushed to get a role through, to get the funding for a role, because he really saw value in all of the support services, but particularly, having someone that could remain quite impartial in an athlete's life, that could support them through university, balancing sport, education, life. And I felt like I had the skills from my health promotion role that I could make that seamless transition to that athlete support role. So it was, I had to go through an interview process and everything, but I was successful in that role. And yeah, it's all down to Matt Bishop and James Grant, really. Absolutely owe a lot to those two. So
yeah. And was Matt Bishop, was he there all throughout your job roles? Was he sort of like the upper guy?
No, yeah, Bish has been here. Bish gave me my first job when I was in my second year uni, 2004. Yeah. So yeah, I owe my whole time at Solent to him. So yeah, he's been through this journey with me from the start. So
too long.
Yeah, too long. So yeah, time to move on. But yeah, Bish has always been been there for me. So yeah.
That's nice. And then this is where it all gets a bit muddled up here. So you had that role, athlete sport officer, and then you went on to do a master's. Quite late in life as a mature student.
A very mature
A
student.
mature student. I wouldn't say that about some people, but you are a mature student. So you went to Staffordshire University. Staffordshire. So why Staffordshire?
Purely because I needed, or I wanted to do my master's distance learning. So I was in full-time work and I wasn't in a position sort of financially to take a break to go study full-time. And I was at a point in my life where I wanted a challenge. I hadn't really thought about doing a master's when I finished university. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it never really featured until that sort of time in my life. And I was like, actually, I probably could do it. And I did a lot of research into the types of masters that I'd like to do. And I looked at sports psychology. I never, and I haven't got the intention to practice as a sports psychologist, but I felt that the topics I was going to learn on the masters would give me some extra skills and knowledge for my day-to-day role. But the masters at Staffordshire was BPS accredited. So if I did make the decision to retrain as a sports psychologist, the course was at the right accreditation level. It was also distance learning, fully distance learning. There are a few contact days, but it was all done remotely, which suited me perfectly. So it meant that I could study in the evenings and the weekends, and I didn't need to stop working. I was very fortunate that the university part funded it for me. So both in like the funding, but they also gave me a little bit of time each week to study. So I had half a day. So I always took a Wednesday afternoon to sort of start the week's work, which was fantastic. Because it was quite hard. The biggest thing was the sort of time management, trying to balance a master's whilst working full time. And during that time, I felt like it really enabled me to connect with the athletes that I was supporting, because I was in a similar position to them. Whilst I wasn't balancing sport and study, I had my own sort of dual career, because I was balancing education and study, or education and work. So I had a full-time job and I was studying part-time. So I feel like that really gave me a good understanding of of how they may be feeling when it gets a bit overwhelming and you feel like you can't find a way through. I could really sort of resonate and go, I understand where you're coming from, like let's kind of work through this together. So that was fantastic. I did it 2 years part-time, which really suited me. And then I graduated in 2018 with a distinction, which I was really proud of. But yeah, I really loved it. It really gave me the confidence that I can study at that level. I really enjoyed doing the research project, and I've been involved in a few research projects here at the university with various members of staff. And I did my dissertation into the mental health and student athletes, which was really great. I had an ideal pool of individuals to conduct some research on. But yeah, I don't regret waiting. I actually feel like it was probably the right, waiting 10 years. And that's what I say to a lot of students now when they get to their final year and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Do I need to do a master's straight away? And so I waited 10 years to do mine. So, you're never too old to learn. Absolutely. And I think it really helped me because I had a lot of life skills that I could apply to the study. But yeah, I learned loads, and I met some really great people from all sort of walks of life. And I think because the course was flexible and remote, there were people from all over the world on the course, and from all over the country, and those in similar positions to me that maybe wanted to retrain or try something new, or that because they had families and other commitments, they couldn't go to university full time. So I met some great like-minded people that have gone on to do really great things. But yeah, I would absolutely say to anybody, you're never too old to start learning. And if you do a master's straight away or you wait 5, 10, 15 years, it doesn't matter. I think the hardest thing for me was learning how to study again. It wasn't like studying at master's level. I think that's going into it, that was what I was most worried about, is being able to study at a master's level. That sort of came quite naturally to me. I'm internally, I'm probably a bit of a geek. I love to learn, I love to study. Great excuse to go stationery shopping, buy new pens, pencil case.
I still do that now.
You're right, I do. And I've already bought new pens and notepads for my new job. But what was I saying? I lost my train of thought then.
Oh no, you're talking about how learning was coming naturally.
Yeah. The studying sort of came quite naturally to me, and I found that it wasn't, as hard as what I anticipated. It was still a lot of work, still had to put the work in, but I found that okay. But what was the hardest thing was just learning how to study again, like those study skills, because in 10 years things had changed so much. When I did my undergrad, things like ref works didn't exist, so I spent 3-4 days in the library manually doing all of my references for my dissertation, and then all of a sudden there's a program where you can export your references from all the journal sites and Google Scholars, and it populates it, and you click download, and there you go, you've got all of your references, which and sort of saving journals and all sorts of things that I had to sort of learn how to do again. I had a few sort of nightmares with when I was doing research, and I saved all these papers and then I didn't save them under the actual names where I could find what I needed. So that was a bit of a learning experience that I had to go back through and save them in some sort of order. But yeah, that was the hardest, is just sort of learning how to study again.
Yeah, and so technology from way back in 2003 to 2006 has probably changed a lot since. So that was probably the hardest thing for you.
It was, yeah, and I expect it's probably changed from 2016 to now. That's what, 7 more years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a big change in the 10 years from when I did my undergrad to but even just being able to study remotely, having an online platform, online calls, all of that, that didn't really exist in 2003. Whereas now we've been through the pandemic, and many students here did a large proportion of their study online. So
it's come natural to sense this.
Yeah, and it was great because it enabled me to get a master's when I probably wouldn't have been able to have got one. So
yeah, and then you graduated in MS with the Applied Sport and Exercise Psychology at Staffordshire Uni. You graduated in 2018. Before I came here, actually, I didn't actually know that you graduated just then. So there you go. That's a surprise for me when I researched you. And then when you graduated, you then got another job alongside your athlete support officer, and you're a dual career coordinator.
Yeah, dual career coordinator. So that was sort of an add-on to my athlete support role. At the time, TAFS, the Talented Athlete Scholarship Scheme, who we are a delivery site for, I sort of took on the lead role for the athlete support. So we had a lot of external athletes at the time, so I was the lead and the coordinator for that. And then TAFS were also running a program where sites could become dual career credited, and what that meant is that as a university you had the staffing and the resources and the support available to support young talented athletes to get a degree. So that was a project that I had, started it when James was here, and then very successfully got it over the line. I think we were the 2nd or 3rd university in the UK to get it, which was great. And it just meant compiling lots of evidence, so athletes that we'd been through the programme and what sort of support and flexibility they had, what was available. And it's very much like a consideration for flexibility. So, and that's what we say to, or what I say to the athletes that we have on the programme, is that, it's a two-way partnership, but, the flexibility isn't guaranteed. They have to, you know, be willing, and it's showing that they are committed. And yeah, we got the accreditation over the line. So then I become the dual career coordinator, which was pretty much like similar to what I was doing, but we just had a few things we needed to make sure we did, which is, you know, keeping accurate records of the athletes that we had, the level that they were at, what they were studying, and supporting them with trying to get flexibility, maybe moving hand-ins, or, you know, handing in work delayed, and just making sure they had all the support they needed to be able to do that.
Yeah. And when did TAS come in for you during your career here?
So TAS really heavily featured for me once James Grant had left. So he was the TAS lead as part of his high performance manager role. And then when James left, which was 20, I'm not quite.
I don't remember him at all.
No, it was before your time. So
Before my time, yeah.
Before your time. So it must have been 2018, 2019,
Yeah, because
probably.
I came in September 18, so it must be before that.
Yeah. So so it must have been around 2018 that after James left, I sort of took on the TAS lead role, and a little bit more of the sort of not specifically managing the program, but a bit more of the sort of administration around that.
Oh, you love your admin, don't you?
I do love my admin. So I sort of took on that and became the TAS lead. So I was the main link between the university and TAS, you know, making sure we had all the practitioners that we needed to deliver this support to the TAS athletes. So the TAS athletes are nominated by their national governing bodies, and then they are placed into different TDS sites based on geographical location. So naturally, we've had a lot of sailors over the years because of where we are located. They're based in Weymouth, so we're sort of on that south coast. And we've had a lot of boccia players, such as yourself. So over the years, we've had a number of boccia players, and, you know, it's something that as a department we've really loved working with boccia players.
You've got to say that on this podcast.
No, you can pay me later, yeah. No, and you know, working with the likes of yourself and James and Will and Ali, who first came here way back when. I played my first played boccia with Ali in the sports hall.
Yeah.
And it just really, you know, opened my eyes to Paralympic sport, and I'm, you know, I absolutely love parasport. I'm really passionate about parasport, supporting the athletes that play those sports, and I think boccia is an incredible sport. It really is. No, it really is, and we haven't had a game, have we? So I don't know if we'll get that in, but maybe I'll come back and we can play boccia. But yeah, we've had a lot of boccia athletes. We've also had quite a lot of army athletes. So TAS have a program where they support athletes who are also in the army. So we've had a lot of karate athletes. So yeah, we've had a whole variety, really. But yeah, 2018 was when TAS sort of became fairly prominent in my career, and I certainly owe a lot to them as an organisation for my CPD.
Yeah, you got a lot of certificates, mostly during COVID, when, you know, you were sat on your little desk at home, saw picture of Dan, which kind of my little Kelly with you on the call to someone or whatever.
Yeah, no, I did. You know, I've always valued the importance of, you know, CPD and developing as a practitioner, and particularly in the, you know, when I first entered this sort of athlete support role and the performance lifestyle personal development field, it really is constantly evolving. So it was really important that I kept up with you know, things that were, you know, important topics. And COVID was a fantastic time for me to really sort of nail some CPD, and, you know, I kept the athlete support service running. You know, we spoke pretty much every week through COVID, didn't we? We did, yeah. With our coffee with Kelly that I did.
Always coffee. You mean a coffee cup?
Yeah.
I am coffee there.
Yeah, so Coffee with Kelly all through COVID, and it was just important to, whilst couldn't physically meet with athletes, you know it was a great way of keeping in contact with people through Teams check-ins, and it was great. It really opened my eyes to the different ways in which some athletes prefer to communicate, and I found that actually I had some really valuable conversations with some athletes, like on the telephone or over email, whereas traditionally I would have just met them face to face. And for some, that is for some of them, it wasn't an environment that actually made them feel that open. But when I sort of started emailing them, I would get a lot more than if I'd met some of them face to face. I really understood how different athletes would prefer to communicate, and from then on I sort of varied it based on the athlete. Some prefer that face-to-face regular contact, whereas some actually like talking on the phone. Some just preferred to communicate over email, which was great because they could maybe express themselves a little bit more when they're writing things down compared to speaking. So that was probably the most valuable thing I took from COVID.
Yeah, what I've learned from you during COVID was that you probably preferred face to face more than just looking at a screen for an hour.
Yeah, I did. I think that sort of face to face, you can get a lot more out of conversations. I mean, you can still read people's body language online, but COVID for some was a big struggle. And I found it hard that sort of being that sort of separate, and you've got someone maybe on the end of this, on the screen in front of you who may be really struggling, and found it that quite hard that I didn't always feel that I was able to help them as best I could. But I think I did the best that I could. But yeah, you're probably right. I definitely see the benefit of and the convenience of online meetings, but face to face will always sort of win for me.
Yeah, and then I remember you saying at one point, I don't know how you say positive, Peter. It was like Easter break or something, and then we're waiting for all the lecturers to put everything verbal to online, and we were just waiting for that to happen. I don't know how to. I know this is just a holiday for me. This is lovely weather.
Well, yeah.
Not doing much, just waiting for lecturers to come in with what, and I was loving it actually.
You were down in Bognor, down by the sea. No, you were really positive, and I, as I use you as an example to a lot of athletes that trying to find it was a tough situation, but you seem to have a real sort of positivity around it, and you were throwing bocce balls in your hallway, and you were doing lots of things, positive things. So I feel like you really did you helped a lot of people just through your sort of positivity, and you just made the best out of a situation that was quite tricky and quite new to all of us.
Yeah, it was very new to all of us. So. But we'll go on to your roles that you did. So UKAD, advocated anti-doping. You've mentioned to us many times, and it's
important. And Clean Sport Week is coming up. In fact, it's this week, Clean Sport. So trained to be an UK anti-doping educator. So sending and spreading the clean sport message to all of our athletes here at Solent, because it's important.
It is very important. And with TAS, you did support engine transition and education. So that transition from college to uni, and then uni to after uni.
Yeah, done a couple of courses around transition. So I think you're referring to the TASTE course, which is the Talented Athlete Support and Transitions and Education. So that course is very much linked to being a dual career coordinator. So what things you need to put in place to be able to support an athlete going through transitions and education. And then probably one of my most recent courses is Understanding Athlete Transitions, which I've probably skipped out loads, but just whilst you mentioned transitions, that is a course that I've done fairly recently, which is great. I love transitions. I love supporting athletes through transitions. I think it's really, it's great. Something I'm really passionate about and really enjoy, helping someone work through what they're going to do next, and how they're going to get there. So
well, I've seen you a few times, with near 3s or masters that are going on, and they're like obviously you've got to try and help them best you can with this. You usually love transitions, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Transitions is something I get excited when I get a transition.
Yeah, and you're in a transition yourself at the moment, so that must be exciting doing it for yourself.
It's I could probably do with having myself to talk to now. So yeah, I am going through a fairly big transition, considering I've been here in total for nearly 20 years. So
Yeah, 19 years, yeah.
So going to somewhere new after so long will be a big change for me. So
yeah, and not test related, but you did a mental health first aider. You got a certificate in mental health awareness and a mental health awareness for physical activity and sport. Then you got a counselling degree and one for care. Well, very recently applied suicide in intervention training. So you've got a lot of online qualifications.
yes,
Then and after COVID.
some of them were online. So it wasn't a counselling degree. It was just a sort of introduction to counselling skills. Sort of basic counselling skills.
About 2 months ago.
Yeah, so I did that one in COVID, and then the most recent one was the applied suicide intervention training, which was fantastic. It's really, really quite a hard CPD. I went down to Brighton for that, did it over 2 days, but really valuable. You hope you never have to use those skills, but I would definitely feel more prepared if I was in a situation where somebody was maybe having thoughts of suicide, or that were in a place where they needed support. I definitely feel better prepared in how to support them through that, but hopefully I won't have to do it.
Yeah, that's good. And of course your mental health as well.
Yeah, done
hand in hand.
Yeah, lots of mental health first aid training. So I did the 2-day course back. The first mental health first aider course I did was back in 2013, and then I've done sort of top ups as we go. I've done some youth mental health first aid, mental health awareness. So yeah, I've done a lot of CPD around that, which is it's really important, not just for the day job, but just life in general.
And we'll go on to present day now. So over 19 years at Solent, you must have some good moments of your life here as a student and as a staff member. So I've got to ask you a few tricky questions. So best athletes you've worked with. So you can't say all of them.
But I don't.
So much of them won't be watching this podcast, hopefully. But
no, that's a really tough one. I think I've worked with probably hundreds of athletes I've supported over the years, and each one has been amazing in their own different way. Some more challenging than others, but I've always tried to do is help them as best I can in their current situation. But obviously you're number one.
Oh no, you've got to say that. You've got to say that, yeah.
I've supported you for a long time. What, 5 years now?
Too long. Yeah, 5 years.
Two that really stand out for me are obviously Mo and Zach, because I have supported them the longest.
10 years, wasn't it?
Nearly 10 years, yeah. So for the whole time I've been in my athlete support role, the university started to support them when Zach was still at school and Mo was at college, and that was our first sort of interaction with them. So I have supported them the longest, so special mention to them.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could have a favourite. I think it would be unfair to choose a favourite. But yeah, definitely a shout out to Mo and Zach. Obviously I worked with yourself for a long time, Kelly Sim.
I was going to say Kelly Sim, she's probably the most famous one.
Yeah, she is. So I've worked with Kelly again a long time. She did her undergrad over 5 years and went back into full-time sport, and then did a master's alongside, so did a second round of being a dual career athlete. So yeah, supported her for a long time. She's become a good friend now as well, which is nice.
She's an Olympian, isn't she?
Commonwealth, European, world medalist. She represented the university at the World University Games. She was flag bearer for that. So yeah, shout out to Kelly. And then yeah, being in this role, got to work with Aaron Phipps.
Oh yeah.
So so whilst Aaron wasn't a student, the university sort of supported him as being a local athlete, and you know, he's been, you know, fantastic, and he's been a great advocate and, you know, champion of the programme and what we do here. And I've brought him in to do a couple of workshops and talks to athletes. So so there's a few highlights, but you know, I think I would be doing a disservice if I picked a favourite, if I'm honest.
No, I thought you might say that. I thought I said that.
You wanted to try it. You wanted to try. You wanted to try. Fair play. You are a journalist, so.
And then obviously the sport course that you mentioned, Aaron Phillips, he as well as a John Cooper as well. So you had a few lecturers from the sport courses coming in to help out as well.
Yeah, so John's done a lot of work with Aaron. And Adam Lewis is another member of the academic staff. So he's had an athlete, sort of trained an athlete over a number of years. But yeah, we've brought in lots of the expertise across all services, you know, sports psychology, all the guys in the labs when we've, you know, need to do some testing and stuff. So yeah, we've you know, that's the great thing. We've got, you know, some great practitioners here that we can kind of use to support our athletes.
Yeah, definitely. And we're now going to go on to the present day of your leaving. It's Friday.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you are. So I never thought the day would come, but there we are.
I didn't think the day would come, but there we are.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to get going. Obviously, it will be sad to, you know, finish Solent after so long. You're gonna make me cry in a minute. That's what you wanted to do, isn't it? I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, it's yeah, it will be sad after such a long time. But I think it's what I need to do. It's be good to challenge myself.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I'd be a lifer. I thought I'd be here for life.
Yeah, I thought you'd be here until the day you die.
Yeah, no, Solent's given me so much. Yeah, I'm incredibly grateful to have worked here, worked with some amazing people, incredible athletes, young people. But yeah, it feels like it's the right time to move on.
Yeah, it'll be a good challenge.
It will be, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, that comes to a time where you've done the best you can within your role, and then, you know, you can't do any more than that.
No, and you know, I know that there'll be a new me at some point in the future.
Someone's got to replace you here.
Yeah, so you know, it's an opportunity for someone to come in and shape the role. They may want to do things differently, which is great. You know, it's a great role for someone wanting to work in this area. So, you know, I wish the new me all the best. And you know, hopefully they'll be in it as long as I have. So
yeah. And we should just mention actually, it's not just a professional career that you've had from Solent. You met your boyfriend here, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I met Dan. We worked together. And yeah, we're getting married in December. So
congratulations! I didn't know that.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, yeah, we're getting married in December. So he sort of moved on from Solent a couple of years ago.
He did. COVID. After my first year here,
yeah,
he went over to the other campus, didn't he?
He went to Itching College, which is one of our sort of feeder college for the university. So teaches, still does some strength and conditioning and stuff. So yeah. And
he's staying over there now.
He is, yeah.
He's staying there, yeah. Yeah, and then we've got two other dogs, sausage dogs, that get barking throughout COVID. We'll borrow them at the time, and then another one. And they're like, stop it.
Yeah.
I don't talk.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've got two little sausage dogs, Marrow and Mac. They're our boys. So, but yeah, I do remember trying to keep them quiet or keep one of them quiet in COVID. They're not too bad. They just like a bit of attention.
When you get home after after this week, they'll probably go, oh, we've got you for more time now.
Oh, a little bit, but they're gonna be staying at Nana's for a week whilst I start my new job, so they'll actually see less of me. But yeah, but no.
Yeah, well excited for you.
Thank you.
Clear. And yeah, Solent loss is a huge game.
Oh, you're very kind. It's been a pleasure to work with you. It's been amazing. You've really so I get to talk about you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. So no, I think like your development, your personal development has been incredible from when I first met you and when you did a foundation and you moved to university and you had a lot of PA support then. And then sort of through no fault of your own, sort of changes in funding and COVID and all sorts, your PA support got cut. And I think you handled that amazingly, and it's made you. You were fiercely independent before, but it's made you even more independent. And I think it's really, not just that, but being at university is, really helped you develop, and you've done so many amazing things. Like, you pretty much set up the boccia club. You've really been an advocate for boccia and, everything around accessibility at the university. There we go. But no, it's like I've really loved sort of working with you and supporting you, and I feel that this pathway you've chosen now, this sports journalism, has been incredible for you. You've really enjoyed your sports coaching, but I've certainly seen a new passion develop for you, and you've really put a lot of time and effort into all your podcasts, all your interviews, and it's been amazing to see.
And you're the latest one.
And I'm the latest one. I did say I would come and do a podcast, so we got it in. But no, I'm like excited to see where you go now after, because you're finishing university
in August. About time. Yeah.
Finally. But no, I'm really excited to see where this sort of takes you, and I definitely think this is a great career move for you. Hopefully you can continue to champion boccia and disability sport, and through
comes my way.
Yeah, and whatever comes your way. I think that's the thing, you'll take whatever it throws at you. So it's been absolute privilege to be part of your journey, so thank you.
Yeah, and this isn't scripted, by the way.
No, it's not.
Something that I've written for you to say.
He's holding up a big sign saying, "Make sure you talk about me."
Well, no, it's a lovely to have you on. I've always wanted to have you on since the very beginning, so thank you for eventually coming in. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome, Pete. Thank you.
Yeah.
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.